Hello again, everybody. Welcome to Tiger Sidelines alongside Dave Matter, Gabe DeArmond, I'm Bo Bayman. There were only two guys who were tough enough, and the rest weren't tough, but enough about the 49ers. Let's talk about the Missouri basketball team who last night as we tape weren't tough enough at Texas A&M, and they lost two games this week that we sat here a week ago and said, you know, maybe if they play well they could win, and they got housed in both of them.
To a team that's, 5-4 right now. Give A&M credit. They've won more games in the league than anybody thought they would, but two of those are against Missouri.
Right.
And Missouri they came out flat again. I mean, no Mark Smith. What does Drew Smith do? He plays 33 minutes and takes 4 shots and misses all of them. Javon Pickett was their best player. He fouled out in 12 minutes. Tillman played a little bit.
Had 6
didn't
fouls,
do much.
actually.
6 fouls, actually. Mitchell Smith did some good things, but they've got nothing from anybody else. And Gonzo was really frustrated after the game in the post-game radio interview. Basically called everybody out except for Javon and Mitchell Smith.
And Pinson was throwing the ball all over the place, dribbling way too much. I mean, when you go back to the South Carolina game, which they lost 76-54, that game was over in a hurry because, the first half is just killing this team.
Yeah, I mean...
Well, so was the second half.
You came off that 20-point deficit, the comeback against Georgia, and you saw some optimism and people were excited. And I told people, I said, I'll be shocked if they're not down double digits at South Carolina in the first half. And I think it was, I don't think it was 10-0, but it was double digits very early. And they were never, that was the least competitive they've been all season. Yeah. And then A&M, I mean, that's just not a team that's good enough to beat anybody by 17 points.
No.
I thought, and I think it's fair to ask, midway through the second half, I texted Dave, I said, it looks like he's lost this team. That's one of those that you look at and you don't want to call out effort without seeing it. But it's hard to understand how if you're playing hard, you lose a game by 17 points to an A&M team that didn't really play all that well.
Yeah.
And that is the game that turned on that sort of double foul just because, what was that, at least a 4-point possession, maybe a 5-point possession? In a game that was, going to be 3 points, 5 points, all of a sudden it was 10.
Right, yeah, Pickett hacks him at midcourt to break out the fast break, which is pretty common. A&M, the guard, he just kept going. And, that's...
Which is what you're taught to do.
You are. He kept going, and then Pickett hacked him again, and they got a dead ball technical for that. And it's hard to blame that guy because if not for Pickett, they lose that. They're down 20 early in the second half. He did actually try to get to the basket. But this team can't afford breakdowns like that. I mean, we've seen it countless times now. And then you're without him for the final, 12 minutes or so, and you got no shot.
And I actually didn't see a lot of the we got screwed by the officials reaction last night, which I like because at some point when you do this every game, let's not talk about this team being good on defense.
Yeah.
They can't defend without fouling. Going into the South Carolina game, 24.8% of their opponent's points were from the free throw line. And I imagine, South Carolina would have had that many, except they can't shoot free throws.
Right.
And A&M, I would imagine they got more than 25% of their points from the line.
Yeah.
68-51 was the final at A&M. And really, I thought Konzo, he got a technical in the first half. It was his first one. I think you guys said since
He got one
Florida?
last year at Florida.
Yeah, I had forgotten about that.
So it's his second one ever at Missouri. To me, it was sort of, hey, guys, come on, let's get going. And it didn't work.
It's more at the team than the officials, I think. It's, how are we doing this? And, it's 50-50. I mean, he can't go out and play for them, but these are the guys he's recruited.
Yep.
So.
There seems to be a disconnect because this team is not playing the style that his teams have always played. At least they're tough on defense. They don't get beat on the boards by 19, which they did last night. I think in the last 7 games they've been out-rebounded by 55. I mean, that's bad. You can't win like that, especially if you can't shoot. So 32 fouls last night, the most for Missouri since the 2000 bragging rights game.
Wow.
And that was an overtime game.
That's amazing. And now this team is 2-7 through the first half of the SEC. 4 of their next 5 are against projected tournament teams.
Next 3, yeah.
I mean, let's be honest. This season, not that it wasn't a couple of weeks ago, it's over.
Yeah, I mean, somebody asked me, is this year over? I said this year was over the first time they lost to A&M because the upside is, yeah, you put a run together and you're like 17-14 and you're in the NIT. I don't care about that. That's not the goal of Missouri basketball, to play in the NIT. This year, they win out, and this year's a disappointment.
Yeah, they're 10-12 overall, and now you got Arkansas in the Rally for Ryan game, and then you're at LSU. On paper, I know Arkansas just lost one of their best players, but on paper, that's 0-2 week again.
Well, and then you get Auburn after that, so it doesn't get any easier. At this point, you are hoping that somebody just overlooks you because they look at your record and they say, "Oh, we can just," kind of like Auburn did a little bit last night early against Arkansas until they turned it on and won in overtime. There's just not much hope here. I don't see what it is. I mean, even getting Mark Smith back, obviously they missed him last night because you got to play Evan Yerkes for the second half.
Yeah.
People ask, well, why wasn't Trey Jackson playing? Well, he's not a shooting guard, and they obviously are done with him. I mean, I don't see what, he doesn't like how he plays defense. He called out Kobe Brown after the game for giving up all the rebounds to another freshman. I just don't see what the answers are.
Well, you look around this league, though, and you see South Carolina win at Florida. Yep. Tennessee won last night at Alabama. And you go, even if this team's not good, where's that one day?
Yeah.
And I know they beat Florida, but that's a home game. Their last 5 road games in the league, they're 0-5. They're averaging 55 points. They've never shot better than 35%. I mean, there is nothing there.
I go back and I say, how did this team beat Temple? How did it beat Illinois? Yeah. I mean, as it turns out, they have some good non-conference wins. They almost beat Xavier, but they have just imploded in the SEC.
They've got no confidence. I mean,
yeah.
They go out there at this point, I think, expecting to get beat.
And they kept on saying it on the broadcast last night. John Sunvold was there saying, they're waiting for Torrance Watson. He needs to make one. And then he makes one and he doesn't make any more, And he's not the only one. Yeah, he's not the only one. I mean, they're just not good. Yeah. I mean, that's the bottom line.
And not getting better. I think that's the concern.
And then as we talk about every week, and we'll continue to talk about, is what's going to change next year. And that's the thing that fans are frustrated with.
Yeah, because you hope that either everybody just improves, which was the hope going into this year, and it hasn't happened, or you've got to have some turnover, and you got to clear some space and find some transfers or whatever. I mean, Konzo's good at flipping kids, before or even after signing day, and that may be your only solution at this point, unless you can go find some completely off the radar junior college kids or high school kids who don't have great offers.
Right, because hope is not a strategy.
It's not.
Right.
It's not.
Yeah, it's not, and I mean, there's nothing coming through the pipeline.
Yeah.
And you've already seen McKinney leave. I got to believe that there's going to be 2 to 3 more, right?
Some combination of them choosing or kind of being encouraged. But look, maybe I'm totally off base on this, but what's Trey Jackson's incentive not to?
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not saying he should be playing. We don't know what's going on.
Right.
Maybe he doesn't deserve to play. But I promise from his point of view, he's going, I can't get on the floor for this team?
Right.
What's Parker Brown thinking?
Right.
Yeah.
I played early in the year, and now we're awful, and I can't even get off the bench.
Right. And on the flip side of that is, unless the coaches just don't see something in them, if they can't help this team now, as bad as they are they going to help when you think they're supposed to be good? I don't know.
Right. Is there a chance that we see a massive turnover, mass exodus, and a whole new players?
There's always a chance in college basketball, but the problem is, I mean, at least these guys are, hey, they've been here, they've played college basketball. Like, if there's mass turnover, then you're talking about just JUCOs and guys. Like, maybe you can get one Josh Christopher. There aren't 6 of them out there.
That's right. The women's basketball team, by the way, lost to Kentucky 62-47, then lost a heartbreaker to Arkansas on Super Bowl Sunday 85-81. It's a game that they led, I think, by 13 in the fourth quarter.
5 minutes left.
And couldn't close it out and lose by 4 in overtime. And Robin Pinchton's team is now 5-17. They're also 2-7 in the SEC. And if it's not already, I think Arkansas could be the backbreaker on the season.
Yeah, I mean, you got a chance to finally beat a ranked team. You're at home, and I can't imagine there's a big crowd there. I think they announced.
Good news is nobody knew.
I think they announced 3,500. I can't, I wasn't witness to it, but that's a killer there. I mean, a golden opportunity to do something to feel good about. Beating Ole Miss on the road is nothing special. I think they scored 2 points at halftime against South Carolina the other night. But to beat Arkansas at home, you feel like you're comfortably up there by 13 with 5:30 something to go, and to lose in overtime is just a killer.
And this is a pattern, unfortunately, with this team and not being able to close things out. When you think about Nebraska, New Mexico, UMKC, they've had leads in the fourth quarter and just can't finish it off.
Yeah.
And that's something you have to learn. And I know you have young players, but those young players knew how to do it in high school.
Right. And, I actually think, like, long-term, Pinchton has maybe a little, maybe more positive outlook because, look, she's playing her freshman, right? I mean, they're not exactly playing for next year, but they kind of are, and the transfers are there on the bench, and everything we're talking about on the men's side going, where's the help? Right. Well, there's help there for Robin Pinchton. Now, whether it turns into what she thinks it's going to, who knows,
But that's the rosy side of things. You can see it, and that's what the fans are saying. And going back to the men, that's what the fans don't see.
Right.
I mean, she's got it. She can say, this has been a tough year. We'll be different next year.
Right.
Nobody knows what the men are going to be.
She's also coming off 4 straight NCAA tournament appearances, so she's bought some equity and some credibility, and you can look at this as kind of an outlier. If it happens again next year, then the red flags go up. But I think she's earned a mulligan pretty much this year.
Absolutely. The Tigers travel to Georgia on Thursday, and they're at LSU on Monday, February 10th at 6 p.m. So both of our basketball teams, 2-7 in the SEC through the first 9 games. All right, we'll take a break. When we come back, we'll take a look at your tweets. You're watching Tiger Sidelines right here on MC22. Welcome back, everybody. Gabe DeArmond, Dave Matter, and I'm Bo Bayman. You're watching Tiger Sidelines on MC22. Here in early February, it's time to check our Twitter feed, the old tweet machine at Tiger Sidelines. First one is from Greg, and I'll read it like it's written. Why us, Missouri? Basketball is so horribly bad.
Why us? Why every night I ask, why us? Why are we the ones watching and tweeting about this?
They're bad, though. That's for sure. Yeah. David says, can Konzo right the ship? He came in with so much fanfare with both Porters signing, and they made the tourney, but downhill since. Several recruiting misses, players not progressing, and the staff don't seem like they have the answers. They've had some key injuries, but good programs overcome.
Pretty much sums up the last 2 years.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the question. We don't know.
Twitter going to 240 characters has rendered us obsolete. He just explained the whole thing. He's right.
The other program you can think about is North Carolina. Obviously it's not the same, but they're having a terrible year this year.
But they've got like 92 national championships in their pocket.
And 5 stars in that.
Probably be
got
good.
4 McDonald's All-Americans coming, I think.
Yeah.
They've got a kid who Missouri desperately wanted, despite the spin that once he went to North Carolina, we got plenty of guards. He couldn't start here.
Yeah. Whatever.
Okay.
David Moore says, what will it take to make the basketball program what it was 10 years ago? Not asking for Final Four every year, but at least a top 25 program year after year.
See, that's actually reasonable. Like, nobody's asking this team to be North Carolina. Get to where Mike Anderson had it.
Yeah.
And not even in the great year. Get to where they were in Frank's last couple years. Just win 22 games. Give yourselves a shot.
Yeah, and they've been so far from that. This is their 8th year in the SEC. They've had 2 winning records in the SEC. The first year under Frank and Konzo's first year. So this is a pattern. This isn't, and obviously you got to criticize the coaches for where it is, but this has been going on for a while now. They're irrelevant in this conference.
I looked it up last week. Every other team, like their best finish is better than Missouri's best finish in the conference.
Wow.
They are, by any standard, the worst program in the SEC since they joined it, in the sport they were supposed to be good at.
That's what I was about to say. This was the one you were supposed to make hay in. Somebody said, when is Parker Brown going to be set free like his brother at KU? And then I think that's Parker's mom.
Yes.
Who weighed in.
She tweets much.
Well, and she likes Tiger Sidelines, apparently. It says, great question. He didn't play last night, did he?
He got in late when they had Atrongo and Yerkes in. I don't know. I mean, the one thing is, Mitchell Smith is playing pretty well, and he's at that 4 position, and he's kind of blocking other guys. And Konzo,
positionless basketball, Dave.
Well, but they haven't done that in 2 years. That was an idea with Jonte. They never actually did it. But problem is when Konzo plays favorites, let's and probably for good reason. Mitchell Smith had 9 and 11 last night. He was by far their best player. When you're that bad, you keep your best guy out there.
But I mean, 2 weeks ago, Mitchell Smith had missed 13 straight threes, and Parker wasn't playing. And look,
He also didn't start last night.
I don't want to pretend that I think Parker Brown is the solution to this team's problems, and he would go score 30. But again, anyone who's not playing on this team has to be sitting there going,
Right.
I mean, if I can't play for this team, what's the point?
And if the mother is tweeting like that, don't you think there's another candidate for the transfer portal?
I mean, you'd have to think.
Yeah. Sam wants to know, what does Mizzou wrestling need to do to get back to a top 5 team? This year has been rough to watch.
Well, again, you want to talk about he's earned a mulligan. Like, he's been a top 5 team almost every year. Oh, by the way, completely out of the blue, probably his best guy just transferred before the start of the year. I mean, I don't think anybody's worried about Brian Smith.
And another one took an Olympic redshirt year. I mean, at heavyweight, Zach Elam would be rolling this year, and he just decided to test the water in the Olympics. The same with Ironman, and then Ironman decided to leave.
Yeah, it seems like nitpicking when that's the program we're criticizing during what might be otherwise one of the worst years for Mizzou athletics in a long time.
Will Mizzou ever be elite in any sport? I feel like every 4 years we have a flash-in-the-pan run at a division title, but we can't even win a title in our best sport of wrestling.
Well, I mean, first of all, elite consistently? Probably not. I mean, they were for a period in softball, I think.
Right.
And really, that's very similar to what they've been in wrestling. Like, that's a top, 6, 8 program. To me, that's elite. We were talking before you got here, Dave. I mean, do people consider OU football elite? Because they haven't won a national title in 18 years.
Right.
But, like, they're in the conversation. That's Missouri. I think that's Missouri's wrestling is elite.
I think Missouri financially is in a place where if you are going to be elite, you're probably going to lose your coach.
Yeah.
Because that's the way it works out. Unless you get a guy like an Aaron Earlywine, who's a mid-Missouri guy who has no interest in leaving, or a Brian Smith, who's not from here but has built something here. It's just it's hard at a place like Missouri that kind of could be seen as a stepping stone. Or you get a guy like Pinkel, who's here for a long stretch, doesn't like moving, and has never climbed the mountaintop, but has gotten the program pretty far to where you want to keep staying.
Right. The goal is have elite seasons.
Yeah.
Elite program? No, probably not.
And the other thing is they have had elite wrestlers. I mean, there's no doubt about that. Yeah. How can the Mizzou coaching staff capitalize on the Chiefs winning the Super Bowl?
Look, I know Sean. I like him. I don't see they can't. Right?
Wow.
I mean, I don't know.
They can have John Sunvold wear a sweatshirt on TV.
But that doesn't help Mizzou. It helps the Chiefs.
That was pretty awesome.
It helps John's Twitter following.
Yes, it does, by a lot. All right, thanks for the tweets. Don't forget, we're at Tiger Sidelines. When we come back, it is National Signing Day, so we'll talk about that. Who's coming to play football for the Tigers? That and more when we come back. You're watching Tiger Sidelines on MC22. Welcome back, everybody. You're watching Tiger Sidelines. Gabe, Dave, and Bo here, and it is National Signing Day, the second signing day, as they like to say now, and Missouri's doing halfway decent with the new staff. That we talked about last week, Damon Hazelton, the wide receiver from Virginia Tech, he's in. JUCO defensive lineman Ben Key signed, he's in, and they had a pretty big one this morning. Ennis Rakestraw picks Missouri over Texas and Alabama.
Right, defensive back from Duncanville, Texas, and he's a 3-star kid, but he was one of the hottest prospects in the country. And you see these offer lists, and usually you go, well, yeah, he says he's got 35 offers, but he can only commit to like 4. He legitimately had committable offers from Texas and Alabama and maybe Ohio State and Georgia. And he picked Missouri. I mean, that, for an out-of-state kid, that doesn't happen. You have to go back to, I guess if you want to count Terry Beckner as out of state, you can, but not really. You've got to go back to whether you believe Texas ever really had a chance at Chase Daniel to have that kind of thing.
And he'll come in with a lot of fanfare, won't he?
Yeah, you hope that it's fair for a kid who, before his senior year, didn't have a single Power 5 offer. So he's a late bloomer. I think we should say Barry Odom and his staff should get credit. They were the first Power 5 school to offer him, and then the other offers came in. He was kind of one of those guys that when everybody had their classes signed in December, like, hey, we need to fill a couple spots. If you're Alabama or Texas, whoever, say, hey, we need a DB. There's this guy. Yeah. So, I think Missouri not getting a 5-star guy that's going to play in the NFL in 2 years necessarily.
Right,
So,
right.
But this is a position of need now because you lost Christian Holmes. So
And
if he can play as a freshman in some capacity, this is a big pickup.
No doubt about it. Some other names, Montre Edwards, he's a defensive lineman. Johnny Walker, defensive lineman. Wide receiver Chris Drain, Chance Lupard, and offensive lineman Dylan Spencer. I mean, they're going for where they need. You have to give them credit for that.
Yeah, we expect all those kids to be official today. We're taping on Wednesday morning. Eddie Watkins, the defensive end, who's going to announce this afternoon after we tape, before anybody sees this. So could be Missouri, could be West Virginia. Kind of seems to be between those two. But yeah, defensive end, receiver. I mean, those are in cornerback a little bit. Those are the spots that they had to hit.
One thing that you guys got to do recently was meet the football assistants.
Yep.
It was kind of nice, I would bet, to have that access and get to know these guys.
Yeah, I think there's some impressive guys, and there's a lot of energy. I mean, that's obvious with Drinkwitz, and he's going to find guys that also bring that energy. I thought Curtis Lupard, you can see why the guy is a well-known on the recruiting trail, has a really successful track record, whether it's at Auburn, Oklahoma State, or TCU. He's just engaging. He's personal. He like actually enjoys talking to the media, which is not all of them do. Some of them have to fake it. He seems very genuine. And then Casey Woods, I thought a good choice for recruiting coordinator, not just his personality, but and I didn't quite put this together before reading his bio, but the guy had to build recruiting classes at UAB when they didn't have a program.
Oh, wow.
And they were good. They had 3 winning seasons with him there, helping that process. So I was impressed by him.
Yeah, and Marcus Johnson, the offensive line coach, who has scored points with us by being the offensive line coach who actually spoke to us. So ahead of the last guy. But he's got a good personality. He was kind of funny. And even like DJ Smith, who's the linebackers coach, for our purposes that day, not a ton of great quotes, but it was pretty easy talking to him for me to see, I bet kids like this dude.
Yeah. The other thing that was brought out was, everybody says it, and I know it, but sealing the borders is their top priority.
Everybody says it. This staff is doubling down on that. It really seems like. I mean, even Odom and Pinkel, they never said, hey, we're going to have everybody recruit that area. It was, let's put 2 or 3 guys in there, and then we're going to go find kids in California and Florida and Georgia and Texas. This staff really seems to mean it. And I think if you look at our paper, the Post-Dispatch today, we had a list of everybody that signed from the area. Top 10 guys, you got to go down to 15, 16 to find the guys that Missouri signed this year. And that's not a knock on Drinkwitz, because most of these guys were committed before he was hired. But they've got to do a better job in the backyard. That's not always been the case. Gary did a really good job getting the top guys for a long stretch. Barry was hit or miss, more miss than hit lately. Yeah. So this is a priority for them.
Do you think that the new staff came in, saw a list like that, and said, how are we not getting these kids? Or how,
Well, I did think it was interesting when Casey Woods was talking to us the other day. He said, we got a state full of little boys that grew up Missouri fans. I'm not sure you do, and that's part of the problem.
Right.
Now if you can turn it into a situation where that's the case, then yes, that's obviously going to be huge. But they said all 10 assistants will be somewhere in the state of Missouri in addition to their other places, which is, to me, that means you've got 3 in Kansas City, 4 in St. Louis, probably 1 down in Springfield, 1 in Columbia, and 1 in the Boot Heel. Because no disrespect to Bethany, but you're not devoting a coach to recruit Northeast Missouri. They don't really turn out enough kids. You send somebody up there every now and then.
And that will be in addition to going to the southeast part of the country in California and Texas. So that's a lot of work, but that's how you have to build, and that's how you have to build in a place like Missouri.
Well, because you have the one thing that no one else has, and that's the proximity. You can say, hey, all it takes is an hour and a half, maybe 2 hours to get here. It's not the TV argument anymore, because every game's on TV everywhere. It's the proximity. You can sell that. Ohio State can't sell that. Oklahoma can't really sell that. Georgia, Alabama can't sell it like Missouri can, so they have to hit that hard.
Well, I thought it was interesting that Curtis Lupard told us, somebody asked him about his recruiting strategy, and he said, look, it's about hard work. You can outwork other people in recruiting. And I don't think I've ever heard a coach say that here. Pinkel talked about having to out-evaluate people, but Curtis Lupard just said, we're just going to work harder. And I don't know, maybe you can do it.
Yeah, we'll see if that works. The Missouri wrestling team, by the way, lost to Oklahoma State 26-6. Tigers 10-5, but they're 7-0. And, of course, With one more win in the MAC, they'll be the outright champs there. Brock Mahler did defeat number 1 Boo Llewellyn 5-3. He was down 3-0. Got an escape, got a late takedown, and then a takedown in sudden victory to win that. Up next, Tigers host Arizona State. That'll be on Sunday, February 9th, and we'd be remiss if we didn't let Gabe have the floor about his lost voice and his
Yeah, I don't think I can talk about it
love
anymore.
for Patrick Mahomes growing even more.
Well, I don't know how possible that is, but I mean, we're, 2 years in, greatest of all time, right? Like if he just retires today, he's in the Hall of Fame.
Or if somebody runs him down at the parade.
Shut your mouth, bro. That happens.
But it was quite a comeback, though. I mean, it wasn't like the Houston game. It wasn't like the Tennessee game. I think there were a lot of Chiefs fans who were like, holy cow, we're in trouble.
Well, because he wasn't playing well.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, he looked bad. He looked rattled. And San Francisco was everything everybody said they were. And like I told Bo before the show, like, I can't imagine how much it sucks to be the second or third best team in the NFL and go, I don't know, he needed 7 minutes to beat us.
Yeah. He came down and got it and took care of it.
I do want to apologize. Last week's show, I said I was not looking forward to the halftime show. It was fine. It was good. It was entertaining.
It was approved.
It was the first time, like, I watched none of the halftime shows. I watched none of the commercials. I'm like, get this junk over and get back to the football.
Yeah, right. It's the first time in 50 years.
First time ever.
Yeah. All right, that's going to do it for this week of Tiger Sidelines. For Dave Matter and Gabe DeArmond, behind the scenes, we got Bill, Matt, and Brian. I'm Bo Bayman. Thanks for watching as always. You've been watching Tiger Sidelines on MC22.